Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garibaldi Red podcast, a Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Max Hayes, and riding solo today, really am Billy No Mates live on YouTube and Facebook as we look back on a big win for Forest at the weekend away at West Ham, and we will answer some of your questions. We put a call out on social media just for the final two games, whether you've got any questions to put to us. And I will discuss them throughout, and we'll try and do 15, 20 minutes or so looking back on the game, answering questions, and looking now to a huge final game of the season. We always had that little bit of an inkling, didn't we, that it would go down to the last game of the season against Chelsea. Even when the fixtures are first released at the start of the season and all the anticipation and excitement gets built up, I had a bit of a feeling that last game would mean something rather than it just kind of be a write-off. And I mean, really, the past few seasons in the Premier League, particularly last season, yes, we were safe by the final game, but the last home game there was something to play for. And obviously the same with the first season under Steve Cooper, returning for the first time in 23 years. There was that game against Arsenal. So lots to play for. And, despite kind of being quite negative this week, maybe a lot of the fan base and me included here, and thinking that the Champions League hopes would be over, we're in a position now where it's not in our own hands, but we can control the game against Chelsea, and relying on a few of the results maybe going our way and the footballing gods working in our favour, then Forest could see themselves finishing Champions League football. We would never do it the easy way, so we will see. Let's look back at the game, though. Just my take from the game against West Ham. Really good. I thought, I thought West Ham played quite well. I thought they, particularly in the last 10 minutes, Forest were under the cosh. As you would be in the last 10 minutes of a game of football, so I kind of didn't expect anything different, but I thought we defended well. Disappointing to see kind of them get wasn't really a consolation goal in the end because it nearly changed the outcome of the whole game. But Jared Bowen obviously gets on the score sheet. Excellent goal from him. But in terms of the bigger picture and the game as a whole, thought it was really good. Thought that Forest from start to finish played very well, controlled the game, dominated at times, almost did what we have done well all season, and kind of got that early goal and then soaked up a lot of the counter attack, and just kind of went with the pace, and particularly I thought Anthony Elanga had a good game. Someone that's needed to, I don't mean this in too critical way, but needed to sort themselves out a little bit and really get back to some kind of form. And I thought he played very well. I thought Morgan was excellent. Again, Morgan had a bit of a poor game recently, so I thought he was great. And look, just good to see kind of Forest almost stopping the rot in a way and just getting a win. Yes, there's only one game left now, but that West Ham game, if Forest had lost that, we'd have been talking about something completely different. It ultimately probably would have been a disaster, and we'd have been talking about the Conference League, and never mind Europa League, or possibly even the dizzy heights of Champions League. So good win. Nice to kind of draw a line under the past week, really, with, I guess, Leicester and the disappointing off the pitch stuff with obviously Taiwo's injury and the criticism and controversy that Forest found themselves in. So all good for me, and was pretty pleased with the performance. I mean, when you actually look at the lineup, and I kind of go back to the lineup now, and I thought, great to see Murillo back, first of all. How much do we miss him? And just that solid back four, really, that we've been used to seeing all season, of Nico Williams, Murillo, and Milenkovic and Olorena. And Matt Sal's had another brilliant game. Saved Forest in the first 10 minutes and saved Forest in the last 2 minutes or whatever it was, with that unbelievable save. And then obviously sticking with Sangare as well, who I thought deserved another start. Again, did well, broke up the game. I thought it was a game for him to kind of play into. And I think next week against Chelsea, I do think Sangare will start then. It's almost nice to see when you invest 40 million or so that Forest invested in Sangare, a club record fee, for that player to be playing and getting almost like a full 70, full 80 minutes out of them for the money you're paying, and for the price tag that Forest ultimately bought him for. He has to be playing football games, and it was disappointing. And yes, he's had injuries and he's not maybe settled in as much, but he stepped up the last few games, and I think he played really well again. I saw a chant going around the away end, actually, a new chant about him. So the fans seem to be taking more of a liking to him. He's kind of settling in well in Nottingham, and let's just see what kind of happens with him. For me, he's a must start next week. A game like Chelsea, there's so much to play for. You need the game breaking up. So ultimately, brilliant that Forest, will be able to really kind of utilise him for what they've paid. And a game against Chelsea where there is so much riding on it, it needs breaking up. The midfield will be an area of the game where it's won, and ultimately we all know how much it's kind of dominated there in the modern game in terms of a footballing point of view. We'll do a few bits and pieces throughout this pod, and where it's just me, so I don't want to ramble on too much. If you have got any comments, we're live on Facebook, Nottingham Forest News, and YouTube, Garibaldi Red, then be sure to get them in. And I'll just go through a few questions, actually, that we have got on social media. This one is maybe a bit of $1 million question that every Forest fan seems to ask at the minute, but it says, should Forest go back to playing two wingers? I've thought this for a couple of weeks now, with both Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga pretty much, hopefully, not jinxing it, fully match fit. Yes, I think I don't think playing Dominguez on the left works. Yes, we've been able to grind a few results out, but in terms of next week, we're at home with the home side. We have to go for it next week. There's no kind of question about that. We can't be reserved and playing kind of in a reserve way, which I don't think we would be anyway if Dominguez was on the pitch and playing on the left. But I just think you need two of your best players, your quickest players that can get balls into the box, find Chris Wood at the right time. And I think those two are Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga. So for me, they should definitely be starting next week, and Forest need to go back to playing two wingers. Look, we trust Nuno and we trust him, and he's done a brilliant job all season of these tactical masterclasses. But looking at the bigger picture, he has to do slightly more in a sense of creating chances for this last game and next season as well, which will be difficult. Forest need to find their identity a little bit in the final third, which I think we've lost recently in the last few games. There was glimpses of it, don't get me wrong, against West Ham, and great to win. But if we're talking about the kind of style of football that Forest want to play and that we've been known for all season, we've talked on this podcast many a times with Dave and people about, Forest being found out. Well, not really being found out, but just having those different kind of ways of being in that kind of creative final third. And I think Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi both contribute to that. So for me, they both have to be starting. And I just hope that Nuno kind of does that next week. Whether he'll kind of change, don't fix what ain't broken. I don't think he'll do that. I think there will be changes next week because he knows how much he's riding on the game. When was the last time we were at the City Ground, kind of all checking on our phones what the scores will be, what the scores are around other games, and that'll be the case on Sunday. So just makes it all entertaining, doesn't it? But for me, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga should be playing both at the same time. I think they work well together. I think particularly if we go back to Wembley, and I stood in the lower tier of Wembley, and I kind of watched Anthony Elanga the first half, and up until Callum Hudson-Odoi came on during the second half, they just look lost without each other in a way. So I think that they work well together. They've just got that pace, and they've got that attacking edge and threat that Forest ultimately need on such a big game on Sunday, where there is so much riding on it. This one from Paddy. Hi, Max. Thoughts on Sangare these last few games? Yeah, touched on him a little bit at the start, Paddy, but brilliant. I've just been really impressed. But rightly so, right? The guy costs £40 million, and if we're being brutally honest about footballers, when you're putting that price tag on somebody, they should be able to play in the top end of a Premier League game. They should be able to play for a team that is hopefully going to be in Europe. Well, we will be in Europe next season. What Europe it will be, we don't know. But in a sense that you're paying £40 million for him, so he's got to turn it on at some point, and he's got to show that he's kind of worth it. So for me, yeah. Definitely been really impressed. Think he's brought just something a little bit different to the side, and also almost having a fresh face, I think, in a footballing side when there's so much going on at the minute, and there's so much to play for, and there's so much pressure ultimately on Forest to try and finish what we started right at the start of the season. So having somebody new and somebody just to come in with a bit of a, not a calming presence as such, but almost that new aspect, I think maybe that has a bit of a positive contribution to the side. So been really impressed with him. Think he's definitely a player next season. If you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I'd be going, probably going to get rid of him in the summer when we're having a bit of a clear out. If you ask me now, no, we've got to keep hold of him. And look, we love Ryan Yates, and we talk about Ryan Yates on the podcast a lot, but we all know as the gap gets bigger in the Premier League and the gulf of quality, and Ryan does step up to it, and don't get me wrong, but if we do get Champions League football and Sunday goes lovely and we're playing Real Madrid away next season or Dortmund, which would be lovely, is Ryan Yates going to be that man to hold the midfield majority of the time? Probably not. And that's where somebody like Sangare will hopefully to continue to improve his game. And he's the kind of player that you rely on. In a sense of midfield, Forest aren't too, in my opinion, too desperate to improve it for next season. I'd be looking more at kind of defensively and attacking wise next season. We need another striker, and we could do with a couple more wingers. In a sense of the actual central midfield area, defensive midfielder, for me, Forest are kind of sorted. Yes, one addition might be possibly quite nice, but with the likes of Elliot Anderson, Nicholas Dominguez, who has always done great when he's been asked to, Sangare, and I just said Anderson. Did I say Anderson? So those kind of 4 or 5 players will be all right for us. So we will see. This one from Chris: Chelsea are scared of us. Well, I think they would be. I think if we were going away to Chelsea on Sunday, knowing what was at stake and we were in their position, we would be too. I think the home side has a massive advantage on the final day of the season. There's no doubt about that. I think with the crowd and the atmosphere behind them, Forest should get the job over the line. In a sense of, I think we'll pick up 3 points on Sunday. We'll definitely win. Whether an Aston Villa result goes our way, that's out of our hands. All we can do is control the football on Sunday. I do think Forest will get Europa League. Champions League might be too much to ask for because of these other results, but never say never, really. Hope nobody's not stupid enough to write us off, as the great man once said. So all positive. And look, football's a funny old game. It can change quickly in a week, and it has, hasn't it? Really, it's changed. We're all in good spirits since that Leicester game. This one from Matthew. I think Olarena hasn't been himself since being back from his injury. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point, Matthew. I agree. I thought particularly against Brentford and Leicester, I thought that Olarena just looked slightly off it. I thought he looked better this weekend, if I'm totally honest. I thought he had quite a good game, but he was kind of slowly jogging back. He made a few silly clearances, silly mistakes. Is that natural for a player that's been out for a couple of weeks, that's not been in the side? Probably. Yeah, probably. I think with Olarena, you kind of, you get this character off the pitch, but you also get a character on the football pitch, and he kind of plays to that coolness element, if you like, of him, and he's quite laid back and he's quite relaxed. And I think it was at the start of the season where he kind of made a bit of a off the line clearance, and Murillo kind of looked at him as if to say, well done, and the TV cameras were zoomed in on him, and Olarena kind of gave this smug look as if to go, don't worry, it's my job. And we could kind of tell he was really happy with it. So I just think that's his kind of personality, and sometimes he can be quite laid back, which ultimately in a game of football can cost you. And if you're jogging back at the wrong time, or you make those silly mistakes and you gift teams goals, we saw with West Ham giving Forest almost that first goal. Forest don't get gifted goals often, so it was nice to see a bit of a mistake from their defence, which obviously Morgan Gibbs-White gets on the end of and fires into the bottom corner. And nice finish from him. Good to see him getting on the score sheet. So yeah, in regards to Olarena, I think you kind of get that personality with him. Sometimes he's just quite laid back. So we can't have it both ways. But I do agree, Matthew. I think he's got to do a little bit more in this final game and next season as well. And he'll have to show himself more in pre-season. He's been linked with a move to City. I can't see him going there. I kind of see Olarena leaving Forest in the summer. No, can I see Morgan? Definitely. I just think that's the way it is. I do think Forest will try and keep hold of Olarena. So fingers crossed. Also this one from Matthew. Any news on the contract situation as Hudson-Odoi is out of contract? Yeah, that's a good point, Matthew. I'd have to check that. I mean, in terms of Callum Hudson-Odoi, he's a player that's been linked with other clubs. Roma were interested in him. You forget that Forest paid such a small fee for such a good player, right? And he was at that kind of funny point in his career where he had all these injuries and really was abandoned. And Forest picked him up and gave him a home and have done really well in kind of getting him back on his feet and getting him back to probably doing what Callum Hudson-Odoi does best. I can't see him leaving. I don't think Callum will leave. I don't think Anthony Elanga will leave, especially if Forest get, we've got European football, so they're not going to leave. I just can't see it unless a really, really good offer came in. I'd be more tempted to sell Anthony Elanga if I was on the Forest board than Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think in terms of a consistency point of view and form, I think Callum's much more of a crucial player than Anthony is. But again, we would miss Elanga's pace. We can't rely on Jota Silva and Ramon Sosa playing possibly Champions League football next season. So that would be a decision that the club would have to make. And I think we would kind of see on that aspect. But in regards to Callum, I've not heard anything. I don't think he'll leave. So yeah, we will see. Should Forest have invested in a striker? One more player should we have recruited in January? That question put to us on social media. Yes, I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind. We should have invested in a striker, and I just wonder whether we'd have picked up a few more points than we're on now. I just think the lack of recruitment. Sam talked about it brilliantly on the podcast before when we previewed the West Ham game just a couple of days ago, and he talked about kind of the lack of recruitment maybe costing us. And we never thought that Forest would be in this position, but ultimately in January we knew we'd be fighting for the last couple of months of the season in Europe, and that's why for me maybe we should have invested in a striker, and not just a striker, maybe a winger. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, and it might come back to bite Forest, but ultimately we have to be careful with PSR. We've seen it happen before with clubs, so we've just got to be careful. Jesvin says, if Callum Hudson-Odoi's mind is elsewhere, would you consider dropping him for the final game? It's a good comment. It's a good question. Probably not. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi as a professional footballer will be wanting to get the job done. You see the way he is in the dressing room with Ola Reina and with other players. He will want to help Forest get over the line and try and get Champions League football or Europa League football. So for me, I wouldn't drop him, and unless there was so much speculation and Nuno knew something that as paying fans we didn't, then yes. But in a sense of going out there and trying to get over the line and getting 3 points, for me, got to keep Callum Hudson-Odoi on the football pitch. He's excellent and he scores goals and he's got that pace, he's got that attacking drive, and really that is what Forest need. Right, just a few final thoughts before I wrap up, so I don't want to go on too long with it just being me. Chelsea on Sunday, look, all to play for, isn't it? It's going to be nervy, but then we never expected it at the start of the season. At least we're not in some kind of relegation battle here, and we're fighting on the last day to survive. So there is that positive. I can remember the game against Ipswich when Chrissy Cohen scored that goal and we were 3-0 up and everyone was still checking their phone for the Blackburn score, and ultimately survived that day. What was it, on 2 goal difference under Mark Warburton? I mean, what a turning point that was for the club, because Marinakis was about to take over. Fowers was long gone at that point. Mark Warburton was placed in charge and kept us up. So you forget, and that Jordan Smith save, if he didn't make that save or Chrissy Cohen didn't have scored that goal, then where would we have been now? It's a funny one, football, when you look back at moments and memories like that. So, yeah, it's going to be all to play for on Sunday. It's going to be a bit of a nervy atmosphere, but Forest are the home team. And I was having this conversation with someone yesterday and they were saying, yeah, but you never know what Chelsea can turn up. But Forest have just got to do what we've done all season. Play the game that we've played, because Chelsea will need a win. They're not coming here with nothing to play for and rolling the ball around at the back. They're going to be looking for it and trying to get 3 points and ultimately control the permutations their end. So they're going to be up for it. Forest can defend well, and hopefully with Murillo and Milenkovic still at the back, and that fast counter-attacking football, there's no reason why we can't go and get a result. I just think he's got to start Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga. He has to start two wingers and really go for it on Sunday. This isn't a game to risk playing players really out of position. So, all to play for. I think Forest will win. Let's just wait and see about the other results. I'm not going to say we're going to get Champions League because that would be a silly prediction. I think we'll win. I think we'll get Europa League. I just think we've got to rely on a few other results going our way. And we'll see. Obviously, there's a few games in the next few days that will possibly control Forest City with a game in hand. So they play that either tonight or tomorrow night. I think it's tomorrow night, actually. So we will see about that one, and we will see where Forest end up. But a big City ground atmosphere. I'm sure there'll be some sort of Forza Garibaldi display being organised last minute, and a nice tifo in the home end to back Forest and hopefully get us over the line. But we shall see. It's been a good season anyway. Few score predictions. Derek says 2-1 to Forest. We would take that, wouldn't we? A lot. Right, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed this solo episode. If you did and you'd like to hear more of them, then do let us know. We'll try and do more of them next season. We'll, of course, be back with our normal review show next week after the Chelsea game. Then there'll be a few changes, so we'll inform you about that next week. We'll do a preview for Chelsea as well, but that might come from me in a hotel room in Wolverhampton because I'm doing some presenting work, so it's all a bit over the place this week. So I am going to be looking forward to, hopefully at the end of that Sunday, Forest to be in the Champions League with a beer in hand and celebrating in Nottingham with all the other Forest fans if everything goes our way. But we shall see. Thanks for all your comments and questions on Facebook and YouTube, Garibaldi Red and Nottinghamshire Live. Do keep in contact with us, and you can leave us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you did enjoy, give us a like, share and subscribe on YouTube. And as Forest hope to take their Champions League day hopes to the last season, and fingers crossed, you never know, the results might go away and we will secure Champions League football. I think we deserve it. Come on, you Reds. We'll see you soon.